a work from 6 in the morning straight up to midnight.
Working
midnight. I'm here to tell you. You think it easy for barber stand up in the shop all day and nothing not go on. You think it easy for farmers stay up in the sun all day and plow the farm. It no easy being a vendor nor a taxi man. No, you think it easy if you stand up and watch your youth a cry for food for them. But how feels it knows it. We are feel it from we little and a grow. How feels it knows it. Sometimes we feel like we let go. How feels it knows it. We are feel it from we little and a grow. How feels it knows it. Only judge and know.
It not easy for ear just a open at the shop all day and nothing not go on. It not easy for eagle lock down in the marketplace and can't sell a can. Manicurists rent them both and the ladies now do them nails. No, street vendors now the boiling sun and them now make no sale.
So how feels it knows it. We are feel it from a little and a grow. How feels it knows it. Sometimes we feel like we let go. How feels it knows it. We are feel it from a little and a grow. How feels it knows it.
Only judge I know. Yeah, yeah.
The way the system set up, no help poor people no way. But poor people not go give up. No, no matter how it's there, we still a hustle and a fight it. All when we no like it, still working on and on, from dusk till dawn. So how feels it knows it. We are feel it from a little and a grow. How feels it knows it. Sometimes we feel like we let go. How feels it knows it. We are feel it from a little and a grow. How feels it knows it. Only judge I know. Yes, you think it easy if you know say early in morning landlord a come for the rent. When deep down in yourself you know say you don't have a cent. You know me feel it for the youths them when you have to sleep out the street. Them not care for the youths them and a long time me see it. So I won't feel it knows it. Them I feel it from them little and a grow. I won't feel it knows it. Sometimes them feel like we let go. I won't feel it knows it. Them I feel it from them little and a grow. I won't feel it knows it. I only judge I know. Yes, I won't feel it knows it. We are feel it from a little and a grow. I won't feel it knows it. Sometimes we feel like we let go. I won't feel it knows it. We are feel it from a little and a grow. I won't feel it knows it.
Only judge I know. Yeah, yeah.
This one, it be all of the
hard-working people.
Welcome to another edition of Voice of the Diaspora. The President's 8% increase retroactive for December. Is it a blessing or a curse? In studio with me today is community activist, Apostle Nigel London. We will be talking about that 8% increase and what it means to public servants. Apostle Nigel London, welcome to Voice of the Diaspora.
Greetings to you, Norman. It's certainly a pleasure to be here with you again. I'm always honored to have an opportunity to sit and share with those who are in the diaspora. I thank you for being that person and one of those who continue to engage our brothers and sisters who are Guyanese and others. So thank you for the opportunity, and I hope that this discussion will yield some fruit and bring some information, if necessary, to those who are in the diaspora. Thank you for the interesting topic, actually, as always. I look forward to sharing this moment with you.
And welcome, welcome. It has been a while. You are a regular on this program, so to speak. And we haven't chatted for a very long time. And I'm so elated to have you here. I know you've been doing tremendous work at Linden and in Guyana. I've seen you outside of the Mackenzie High School greeting young people. I don't recall what your process is called, but it is empowering young people to understand that parents before police, and you're there to motivate them and to show them that family cares, and so on, and that is extremely wonderful. I want to go straight into the program, Apostle Nigel London. 8% increase, is it a curse or a blessing?
What a rich question, and it's certainly potent in reference to the terms curse and blessings. Of course, persons are typically weary of or very cautious in diving into these terms because they have some probably biblical and spiritual meaning to them, or connotation when you speak to curses and blessings. But in my view, 8% increase for public servants has to be deemed a curse at this time. And I'm certain that in our discussions we get into the why regarding it. But it's definitely in my view, given what I know and we'll discuss this evening about Guyana and the potential that Guyana has. And it's not even potential any longer. The reality now, in terms of economics, it is definitely considered to be a curse to public servants.
It is definitely considered to be a curse to public servants. I want to ask Apostle Nigel London, why would you say that when you look at the increase that the president declared on Sunday will be retroactive for public servants in December? I understand that increase for public servants, teachers, members of the discipline services, constitutional office holders, as well as government pensioners. Why would you come to the conclusion that it is more of a curse than a blessing?
The reason being, you've just listed quite a few of those who shall benefit, if there is any to be had, from this increase. And it includes constitutional officers, which in essence speaks to the president, the prime minister, members of parliament, cabinet ministers. They are going to benefit from this increase. But when we look at the economic growth that Guyana has experienced, and the IMF and also Caribbean business forums and so on, they've looked at in this 2022, that is, Guyana stands to, in some circles, they view it as we would grow economically at about 46% to about 52% or more. Now, normally, if your gross domestic product, your real gross domestic product, happens to skyrocket to this extent, where it's almost doubled, quadrupled about 4 years ago, how then can anyone with a modicum of care for public servants say that 8% at this time should be considered acceptable and proper when the economic projection for Guyana's growth in just by the end of this year is already tagged over 48%? So given the development we have about 10 point something billion dollars in terms of income from oil. They look at in terms of GDP, as a matter of fact. So we should not have in any way and at any time such an insulting increase given to public servants. But at the same time, we must look at the percentage in reference to value, real value. What is it that the average public servant stands to gain? And then what is it that the constitutional officers, including the president, stands to gain? And excuse me. And I'm not too good at mathematics, but if you paid $1 million on average, then 8% would be $80,000. $100,000, 8% would be $8,000. So Irfan Ali, for example, who receive an average close to about almost $2 million, stands to have an increase of $160,000 or $180,000 on his salary compared to the persons who really need it. And again, we speak to this even further as we go on in this discussion. So when we look at at what the public servants at the lower end of the scale are receiving in an oil-rich, as they call it, economy, we are deemed to be the fastest growing economy probably in the world, one to three. So how can we have this happening in our country, and then a president, the one who's paid to be president, I refer to him as, says, listen, you deserve in the public service 8%, in the midst of what we face now, in the midst of these escalating prices and all that we've suffered, and in the midst of the boast that Guyana's economy is growing exponentially.
Guyana's economy is growing exponentially. Apostle Nigel London there, here on Voice of the Diaspora. Look, we have discovered so much oil, and you've made that point. We have become such a wealthy nation. There is so much happening for Guyana. It appears to many of us that the much that is happening is to the benefit of others more than us, the ordinary Guyanese. When you look at the wealth of the nation, when you look at where Guyana is at the moment, and you look back at what the president would have said previously, while the coalition was in office, the president made a very, very impassionate, speech in Parliament. And I want to go to it quickly before you continue, because we have to deal with these issues for our viewers to understand what really is at play here. We have to understand what really is at play here.
Mr. Speaker, we promise to increase the salaries of public servants by far more than 20%. By far more than 20%. Mr. Speaker, what about the nurses, the teachers? What about the police workers, the police officers? Aren't they equally important? Aren't they equally important? Mr. Speaker.
Apostle Nigel London, is it hypocrisy or madness?
It may be a combination, because we must honestly examine, and in every sphere of society, an honest mind and one who has some degree of integrity will always look at what is promised. In this case, by Irfan Ali, now he's deemed to be president. What has been promised? What did they campaign on after this? And then what is the reality that we face? What have you produced based on that promise? And if Irfan Ali stood to so passionately say that the public servants deserve 20%, at least 20%, and how you say with on his face what appears to be some degree of honor or worth in his mind to his statement that public servants essentially deserve at this time 8%, it speaks to the fact that there's not only hypocrisy but insanity. Because it cannot be that Irfan Ali has forgotten what he said in Parliament when this is public knowledge. It's there for all of us to see, as they like to say, the whole world saw what he said. It tells me that the public servants in this country, and I would go there, who happen to be in the majority those of African descent, continue to be disrespected by this man. As far as I'm concerned, Irfan Ali should not receive any percentage increase at this time because he has no expenditure, none whatsoever in terms of personal expenses at this time. He doesn't pay for food. He doesn't pay for clothing. He doesn't pay for entertainment. He doesn't pay for transportation. He doesn't pay for housing. He doesn't pay for anything. Medical, he doesn't pay for vacations or anything like that. So how could this man in his right mind say at this time that he deserves 8% on about $2 million? And then he also has his incentives that are attached to that. This is unfair. And I would like to think that a caring government, as we saw in Sweden, I think it would have been during the COVID situation, say, listen, or Switzerland, cut our salaries by 50%. New Zealand said, we don't cut our salaries, the MPs, by 50%, because people are suffering. Let people have some degree of benefit. You are not seeing this here. Instead, what you're getting is a promise or an argument in Parliament that, listen, if we're in power, essentially saying, we would give at least 20%. He was demanding of Granger and others to give 20%. Now they have the opportunity to do it. Let us discuss this if we can, Mr. Brown. The argument has to be, is the economy, is the administration able to provide that which is being demanded? At this time, is 8% the most that they can do? Or can they do better given what we face economically? The argument is that they can do better if the focus is on public servants and their development. But that is not the focus. The focus is on benefiting those who are called lackeys and cronies. And that's just the absolute fact. If you examine how many contracts are being just doled out and grants are being just thrown around the place, the focus is not on the public servants. But here we have the Merry Christmas nonsense again, whereby, oh, Christmas is coming, we give you this increase, knowing that you go to shop at our friends who make up the private sector. We know you're going to spend your money there in this craze called Christmas. And what happens? The money goes right back into the hand of those who friends of this administration. That's the sole plan. And 8% in the face of inflation and everything else is just a disgrace.
It is just a disgrace. 17 minutes, 19 seconds into the program. We still have some time to go. Of course, Apostle Nigel London will also be talking about the leadership at Linden, what must be done to improve on leadership, and what must be done to ensure that the social and economic development of Linden is had, and whether our leaders are equipped and ready for the task. But we're here talking about the 8% increase given by President Ali, Irfan Ali, is set to be retroactive in December. I want to go to what the Shadow Minister of Local Government, Mr. Ganesh Maipal, said. Mr. Maipal said that the president will get far, far, far more than the ordinary public servant will get. Mr. Maipal said that, and I really want our viewers to see what Ganesh said. And he is saying here, as you can see here on the screen, right? I want my viewers to see this. I'm trying to make sure that this program gives you visuals. And he said, if I can read it, Irfan Ali receives a salary of somewhere around $1,800,000. Based on his announcement, he will get 8% salary increase. 8% of 1,800,000 is 144,000. And when we multiply that by 12 months to cater for the retroactive, he will get $1,728,000 as a salary increase. So Irfan for December will take home $3.5 million. His ministers will receive close to $900,000 monthly. With the 8% salary increase retroactive, they will take home for December their $900,000 plus $864,000, a total of $1,764,000. A point to note, he said, it's just the above is just salaries. He made no mention of allowances. However, the ordinary man and woman minimum wage is $75,000, and 8% of $75,000, that will be $6,000. 8% of $100,000 will be $8,000. And so this is the shadow minister of local government, Mr. Ganesh Maipal, giving his view on what Mr. Ali has projected for public servants. Apostle Nigel London, you would have heard what the shadow minister of local government, Ganesh Maipal, would have said when he crunched the numbers. What are your thoughts on that?
I would have alluded to it to some extent earlier, in that why would Irfan Ali, or why should Irfan Ali receive any increase whatsoever? What is the need? Because an increase in earnings has to be based on a need. And it has to be based on what the reality is regarding that individual or that group of individuals. The members of parliament and the cabinet ministers, I should say the cabinet ministers in this case, they have got vehicles assigned to them, the best that you can find. They have got allowances paid. They've got a slew of benefits in terms of incentives that they receive. Irfan Ali is the highest paid public servant in this country. What need can he possibly have that requires 1.8 million or thereabout dollars be added to his salary for just 1 month, in reference to, of course, not added to his salary, but the benefit he will have based on the retroactive increase? This is an atrocity, and it's robbery. When you examine or you compare what Irfan Ali has in the one Guyana concept, which I consider to be garbage as far as I'm concerned, but this one Guyana nonsense, he's this slogan he's throwing around the place. When you consider what Irfan Ali is going to receive compared to what a janitor at Mackenzie High School or regular primary school is going to receive, then we should have an idea here about the elitist mentality that has begun to pervade our society. There are people in this country who are called parliamentarians and members of parliament, including Irfan Ali, who's the president, of course. These people have got an agenda which is seen here as they're about to crush, based on an elitist agenda, a class of people called lower class or middle class, I should say. Because if you examine the benefits that accrue when you're president, $3+ million this month, 1 month. He has members of cabinet ministers have over $1 million in their hand. When someone who definitely needs an increase is going to go home, let's say about $72,000 plus their salary to have a little fun. We can see here, Norman, that there is a distinction between the haves, as they say, and the have-nots, a wider distinction. And that is discomforting. It is disquieting, because if Irfan Ali genuinely cared,
it is scandalous.
If he genuinely cared, would he not say, I have no need for $1.something million right now that we added in reference to December? Give it to those who have need. That's what a caring person would do. He wouldn't do it though. Because again, I say to you, let us look at the ethnic constituents or component. What do we find in the public service, the predominant group? And although they get uncomfortable and say, well, why do you have to go there? Because we need to go here. We need to address the fact that public servants are not treated like fisher folk, as they call them, who only a few months ago received $150,000 just like that. No tax. So am I to think that a public servant who's a janitor who's paid at the lower end of the scale only deserves $72,000, while a fisher folk, as they call, can receive $150,000? And one of the Gaisuka workers who would have already received severance benefit, severance pay, on the Granger will come back now to receive $250,000 tax-free again. with Jaguar last year. What are we doing here? How could this be considered to be acceptable when we are seeing a clear distinction between those who are in the upper tier of our society and those in the lower scale of our society? This has to be addressed, and it has to be condemned condignly. It is wrong.
It is wrong. I want to point this out because a lot of people called me today when I highlighted when I advertised this program, and they said to me, Mr. Brown, for the ordinary man who is getting 75,000, the increase for that 75,000, 8% would be 6,000 added to that 75,000. Of course, if you're earning 75,000, that is to take care of your daily living, pay your rent, pay your bills, you pay DGCL, you put food on the table, and there's nothing left because it's a minimum wage, really. And so the president installed, the president installed, um, would have excitedly said, you know what, we're giving public servants an increase. $8,000, Apostle Nigel, and I want you to speak to the world, not only to people in Guyana. 8,000 Guyana dollars. What can you buy with it? A bottle of Hennessy? What can you really do with 8,000 Guyana dollars? Speak to the people.
Thank you. I would share a personal experience so that I can speak to exactly what this feels like. My family went shopping the other day, and when they brought the vegetables home, I went to the kitchen for something, and I noticed, and I have it on my, I took a photograph of it, a cut of pumpkin being sold for $800. The size of it was stunning. Besides, look, I said, this is $800. I couldn't believe it. So when I look at what was in my kitchen, and then I considered how much I would give to my family for them to go shopping, I realized we have a crisis on our hand. And the crisis, if you examine it carefully in reference to the cost of living, $8,000 cannot buy at this time anything that could be considered of real value for a family, let's say of four. Worse if it's 5 or 6. We must also mention here that that's what, about 40, let's say 40 US dollars. 40 US dollars is given to someone to say that this is going to help you to be sustained. When the same Irfan Ali said, or is saying, that given what has happened in the world and given what we're faced with in terms of, like talk about Ukraine and Russia and so on, and shipping issues, there is an increase in cost for so many things. Now, if you can allude to that, and if you can admit to that, then how can any rational person say that giving someone who already has the tag of being at the lowest income scale $6,000 or $8,000 to survive is good enough at this time, when we know that the cost of living has skyrocketed? It is ridiculous. There's certain things that the average person has to just look at now in the store or in the market and to walk away from because they can't afford it. And that's if it's just an individual. We're not speaking here to a family of 4 or 5. What if that person is the sole breadwinner, as I know many to be in their family, and they are at the minimum wage? You give them $8,000 when Ali gets $100,000+. Come on, Guyanese. Come on, people.
But someone is saying in the thread that 8,000 is tax. Is it true?
It would likely be taxed because as long as you go tax, the threshold will be taxed. And that's the other thing we have to talk about.
Nigel
As long
London,
as you surpass the threshold, it will be taxed.
Apostle Nigel London here on Voice of the Diaspora. 29 minutes, 24 seconds into the program. We're moving smooth. Is this a racist government? Is this a corrupt government? Is this a government that has no intention of redistributing the wealth to a section of society that it believes do not deserve it?
I believe with all of my heart that Guyana has been sliding into not just racist leadership, and I speak to I always say at the helm of the PP Civic. But more than anything else, we're into a path of classism, and that's more dangerous. Whereby, as long as you're not in the economic bracket, you are worth nothing. And that is becoming a true reality for those who even support the PPP Civic. And I support none of them. And I always make that clear. I've seen our
You've
PPP
always
Civic.
made
I
it
support
clear.
no political party. And I must make that clear. Because somebody would think I'm an apologist for the PNC. But the point here is that if we can see that even the supporters of this administration are being treated in many instances as if they are worthless, it then points to the fact that we do not have essentially a race or an ethnic issue here. It has blossomed into an issue of class. A caste system is being developed in this country. At the same time, though, when we speak to corruption and so on, I'm seeing here that in some circles, this administration would have mastered the ability to be corrupt, and it may sound strange, but in a clean way. In that, okay, let's give a few road contracts to our friends. I mean, that's a clean thing to do because you have contracts to build roads. But who gets the contract? Who gets the most of the money? Who gets kickbacks? Who is able to go to one of their suppliers and say, okay, you're going to get the contract to build the road, but you can only buy the cement from this person, or you can only buy stone from this individual, or you're going to get a contract to build this building, but you can only get materials from this person. So we have all of these connections, and that's why I call it clean corruption. There is a way that these people are able to beat systems to benefit themselves and their friends, and we have to pay attention to that because that is a level of malpractice or corruption that the ordinary man cannot easily relate to. Because what happens, Mr. Brown, is that people may be cheering in the community, say, hey, we see roads are being developed, they're doing more for us. But I always ask them, who is benefiting from it? We should not just say that because you see a community that is called development. We have to look at who benefited. Was there someone from your community who got the contract to build that road? Did you see, for example, the hardware stores in your community being contracted to supply the stone? No. So then it has to come from somewhere else. Did you see the hardware stores being contracted to supply the cement in your community? Is that the case? Or are they going through one of the big boys from the midst? So that's what I have to look at. What I call clean corruption. And that has become the masterful strategy that I'm seeing here. And Guyanese who are wiser would know to see through it. But in reference to racism, there's some people in the PP Civic who are inherently racist, and they can't help themselves because the things that they do cannot be explained away without it being racism. For example, how can someone say to me that in the region where you have predominantly African, those of African descent, in Linden here, for example, you shut down an entire batch at the Charles Rose School of Nursing and say to them, okay, all the people are free to come to Linden to schooling, but you have to go to Georgetown. Who is suffering? When we have the St. George, the ambulance people, they were shut in, an entire fleet of staff gone, vanished. Mostly African descendants disappear in terms of back on the bread line. We're seeing this behavior when we've got cases in which the bridge, for example, the bridge here in Wisma, Norman, every day, when in terms of weekdays, the lines are becoming more and more ridiculous in terms of length and the waiting time. In Linden, and this administration didn't see it as priority to say we have to have this bridge constructed because it's not their issue. It's not their problem. And the list goes on in reference to what the average Guyanese is suffering. But I say as well that even in their communities, persons are suffering because the new agenda is that if you are not in their economic bracket, you are of no value to them. And that is not about race. That's about class and elitism. And that has to be addressed.
That has to be addressed. I don't want us to go over to our next topic where we will be talking about the leadership at Linden and all these things. But I think your points are very salient and you are making it very, very clear. 35 minutes, 7 seconds into this program. We will take a short break. And when we come back, we will be discussing Linden's leadership. What can be done to ushering social and economic development, and whether Linden leaders are lacking in areas that may stymie that progress, that aspect of progress. Apostle Nigel London here on Voice of the Diaspora. Let us take a short break and then we'll come back.
Jamaican people, some don't know what it feels like. Via work from 6 in the morning straight up to midnight.
Working
Midnight. I'm here to tell you. You think it easy for barber stand up in the shop all day and nothing not go on. You think it easy for farmer stay up in the sun all day and plow the farm. It no easy being a vendor nor a taxi man. No. You think it easy if you stand up and watch your youth a cry for food for them. But how feels it knows it. We are feel it from we little and a grow. How feels it knows it. Sometimes we feel like we let go. How feels it knows it. We are feel it from we little and a grow. How feels it knows it. Only Jah know.
It not easy for ear just a open at the shop all day and nothing not go on. It not easy for eagle lock down in the marketplace and can't sell a can. Manicurists rent them both and the ladies now do them nails. No, street vendors now the boiling sun and them now make no sale.
So I won't feel it, knows it. We are feeling from a little and a grow.
Welcome back to Voice of the Diaspora. Of course, you can view this live stream also via YouTube. And someone said there's been some buffering. I don't know if it is because we're streaming on 2 different platforms for the first time here on Voice of the Diaspora. And of course, we are allowed almost 10 platforms to stream on simultaneously. And so I don't know if there has to be some adjustment to something to ensure that the stream is smooth. But we are here now on Facebook and simultaneously on YouTube, live. Apostle Nigel London here on Voice of the Diaspora, quite outspoken, quite strong, quite intelligent, no nonsense. We are going to talk now about Linden, Apostle Nigel London. And I want us to be very, very outspoken. I have spoken to a number of people today who I've asked what is happening in Linden, what is happening with the leadership in Linden. You know, there seems to be not much happening. The PPP is going into the community. Leaders are quiet. There seems to be no robust sort of response to whatever. And I got several responses from persons, and they said to me, local leaders need to stop acting like they're representing the party interests only and present themselves as force representing the people. Another said, local leadership has lost its way in educating people of the reality of life under the current regime and circumstances. Another said, local leadership need to revive things that worked in the past to keep the people grounded and vigilant. Another said, leadership in Linden need to be more open to listening, especially to constructive criticism. And another said, local leadership needs to move the tongue from accepting handouts kind of life, and demand a life just like the elites in other parts of the country. Another said, why are the cries of the people for a few persons that have the confidence in over the years to be back in various leadership roles in the town going on deaf ears? Why are the cries of the people for a few persons that have confidence in over the years be back in various leadership roles going on deaf ears? Why are local leaders allowing the PPP regime and cronies to brainwash the people of Linden? Apostle Nigel London. Linden seems not to be Linden anymore. You are a leader that thousands and thousands at home and in the diaspora are looking to. They have reposed confidence in you. I want you to speak tonight like you have never spoken before. What is happening with Linden leadership? What is happening at Linden? How bad is it?
Well, thank you. And for those who would repose such confidence in my ability to lead, I see it more as my ability to serve you in terms of informing us of what's happening and also representing the cause of the people here. And Linden, like so many other areas, because of what I consider to be a lack of interest in people themselves, is going to continue to, until it changes, suffer significantly. We've got leaders who are those who are labeled leaders in this community who are, for the greater part, quite often absent, and who are, I think one of those who commented said it, who are focused so much on who has said what about them and how they feel about that criticism that they've lost focus on what their role is. And I'm speaking here to people who are paid. They are paid to serve this community. They've been elected or selected in most cases to serve the community and Region 10 at large, and they are not doing so in reference to the interests of the community. Now, what would be maybe considered a strange statement for me is the fact that we have to drift away when it comes to Linden's development from focusing entirely on this is a PNC area or an APNO AFC area. And we have to recognize that Linden or Mackenzie, Region 10, has suffered tremendously for decades. So this cannot be a case in which where you've got representatives, two, for example, members of parliament in Figueira and Sears. Then we've got, of course, Don Adams, who is really trying his best, would have been, as far as I would observe, to get things done. He doesn't have the political power because he's not the regional executive officer. And so structurally, Region 10 or Linden is suffering because they're individuals in this community who do not seem to have the will any longer to fight or to encourage individuals to fight for what is right there. What is happening as well is that, let's say something is done under this administration, you're going to have a negative reaction to it. Oh, don't let them do it. So if it is not done now, when would it be done? That becomes the question. We have to be open as Lindeners, and I'm speaking specifically to Lindeners. We have to be open for our town to receive that which we demand, not that which we are given, that which we demand. We must have a quality of life in this region and in this town that speaks to us being respected. But that cannot happen if elected or selected officials are busy being hurt when persons are saying, we need this. We need you to represent us in this area, and we demand this. We demand that you speak up for us in Parliament or speak up for us at this forum. They don't want to talk because London said it or Brown said it or somebody else criticized them, and so they're upset about it. So we're not going to say anything. We just go quiet and leave them to suffer. There are many things that I've done in this community, Mr. Brown, that I would expect, especially members of Parliament, to come on board or be ahead to say that this is what should happen, and we demand that this is fixed. Drainage, for example, in certain areas, the road around certain schools, the condition of certain schools in this town should not be the way it is. But if persons are so focused on who is saying it, rather than what is the benefit if all of us should say, then we're going to suffer. A Millswell primary school is a death threat. It's a trap. Persons are being daily exposed, our children, to significant dangers. Where are the members of Parliament? Because what is the issue? Nigel London has said it. That's the problem. We have got to do better. And we've got to demand better. We've got situations in our town in which there is the projects being undertaken here, and you hardly know who are Lindeners benefiting, who is spearheading it, where are the members of parliament, do we have a mayor? These are questions I'm asking. Where are these people who are able to tell us this is what's happening, this is what we've demanded, we got 20% of what we demanded, now people we have to stand up. You don't see that. So the appearance is that the PP Civic is making inroads into Linden, and somebody spoke about brainwashing Lindeners. Listen to me. Nobody can be brainwashed if they are an independent thinker. And Lindeners are supposed to be, and Guyanese at large, because he's speaking to Linden, I'm specific here, you are supposed to be independent in your thinking. If you need to have certain things done in your community, then the smartphone is so powerful that you can simply arm yourself with one, and you can do a video or take photographs, and you can make a demand to say this is what we want. But this is not happening because persons in many cases are looking up to leaders rather than looking in to find that leader. I'm no longer looking to those who are politicians or paid to be counselors, wherever they are. I'm done with that. I've begun to look into the leader in me to say that if it benefits my people, then I shall speak for my people. I don't care who's upset. I don't mind who's mad at what was said. If it benefits my people, I shall speak for my people. I don't have to be elected to do anything. I don't have to be selected to do anything. I have a responsibility to the people of this town. Further, I say, Norman, we've got, for example, in Mackenzie at the market, a hog sty. How much longer must people deal with this foolishness? When the main road to get to the ferry services on Wisma here, on Mackenzie. This morning I drove past, and the garbage pile was so stink and disgusting. And I'm saying, if we in Linden are doing this to ourselves, where would the respect be? Where are the officials to say that this must not happen in our town? Further, I say, Norman, that we can have as many leaders as we want. We can have those who they believe should be in serving in Linden, but this is the problem we have. People must understand that there has to be certain mechanisms in place for Linden to be revived. There must be an economic recovery agenda or program for this community, for it to be revived and for life to come again economically. I can say to you with all certainty that the PPP Civic Administration will not do that for Linden. And I can say with certainty as well that APNU AFC had a chance, but of course in December I think it would not be APNU AFC anymore, but they had an opportunity to at least begin to show us that we intend to improve your lives economically, not just aesthetically, but economically. What are we going to see in this community? And how does that happen? When leaders understand that there's power in hearing people and there's power in representing people. And once people see that, they're going to stand with you. But that's not happening right now.
Wonderful. Apostle Nigel London here on Voice of the Diaspora. 48 minutes, 38 seconds into the program, we're talking about Linden's leadership. What must be done? Apostle Nigel London, I have to ask you to extrapolate, so to speak, on various leaders at Linden. It was brought to my attention, to this program's attention, that our leaders are so quiet that the Kashif and Shanghai organization, which is a crony of the People's Progressive Party, being used in that community to get people to support the PPP, to get coalition and PNC supporters and non-PPP supporters to support the PPP, that they have gone into Linden and have begun rebuilding the Mackenzie Sports Club while ignoring the synthetic track. I understand, this program understands you're on the ground there, so I will, seek your advice. I understand that 60% of the executives of the Mackenzie Sports Club are pro PPP people. And the other 40% are weak. They're, not up to the game. I understand that they're powerful activists from the AFC who are now sitting with the PPP on what you call it, what a 1,000 strong. What is it called? I don't know. It's some kind of ploy,
1,000 men.
1,000 men something, and they're sitting there with the PPP for four photo opportunities, and they're not really standing up for the community. The Mackenzie Sports Club, I am told, I don't know. I am told by people on the ground that it should now be renamed the Kashif and Shanghai Sports Club, because the PPP under Charles Ramson, they're now working hard to rebuild it, and they've ignored the synthetic track. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the synthetic track is actually being done. It was recently paved, and I see work being done there just about almost every day. So work is being done there. Actually, it was there's some development since we just had a run on it before. Now they've paved it, which the next phase would be, of course, laying the rubber on it. Um, and that in itself has to have been, or would have been, for me, and I said it before, a discredit to what Abner should have been doing, because remember the track started under their watch. They had ample opportunity, if you ask me, to at least demonstrate that they intended to do something about it. But it was stalled, delayed forever apparently, and now within days, Ali came here, Figueroa was there and said, well, when the track is finished, we want this. And I'm saying, how could you do that? Because Ali had a right to tell him at that time, hey man, you had all these years to do this, you didn't do it, now you tell me what you want. And that's so embarrassing. And I didn't support Abner. It was embarrassing for me to just watch it. To know that Ali of all people could upbraid Figueroa, say, Figgy, what are you talking about, man? You had all this time to do this and you couldn't do it yourself. So it will be done. And within the next week, the crusher run was covered now with the asphalt, and then you're going to have, of course, the rubber laid on the surface. In reference to Mackenzie Sports Club, I am actually a paid member of the Mackenzie Sports Club, a paying member, and it is under construction or reconstruction. What I find interesting is that to my knowledge, persons have not been fed consistently information regarding works that have started, what is the plan, and social media is there for us to see that at any given time. Who are the parties involved? But that happens when it's not about Kashif and Shanghai, in my view, infiltrating Linden. Kashif and Shanghai can infiltrate anybody with sense. I mean, just being frank and real. It has to be weak minds who are led to think that as long as I can associate with someone and I can get a personal financial gain to some degree, then I am loyal to that person. No, I don't want to be too loose on your program, but listen to me.
You can be who you want to be and what you want
Well,
to be in this program. You know this
I try my
program.
best.
You know this program.
I'll put it this way, as politely as I can. Whoredom is not about loyalty, it's about benefits. Whoredom is not about loyalty. So if anyone can be sold to Kashif and Shanghai or the PP Civic, whatever it is, for some little tidbit, then essentially you understand that this is whoredom. And you're not ever focused on loyalty, because if there's a switch in parties tomorrow, they'll run back across to get something else from that side. So I don't respect those people. And there is no one, including me, who can be convinced by Kashif or by Shanghai or any other element of the PP Civic that I deserve to be supporting these people in reference to their political agenda, because it is not people-centered. It is crony-centered. It is lackey-centered. And I would appeal to all Lindeners, I'll appeal to all Guyanese, wherever you are, that you have to understand your worth as an individual. And nobody could come to you to say to you, we must support this political party before you benefit. Because what I have seen is that even in reference to our leadership here in this community, they are so hooked on APNU, AFC, or PNC's agenda that they can't see the people as being the focus. So when someone like me is out there trying our best to get something done, they can't be seen because Norton is mad at London. So you shouldn't come before me. Or because London criticized you last week, don't come today. I will say this on your program without reservation or
Yes, sir.
apology. I have criticized the PP Civic more than any other group in this country. And guess what? If I go tomorrow to say that this road needs to be fixed, this is unacceptable, or this fence is improper, I get a call. Listen, we on it. Be fixing it, as they call me past. We dealing with it. All right, we got you. We understand. Why is that the case? Because it was said to me, Mr. Brown.
55 minutes, 42 seconds. Apostle Nigel London here on the program. Go ahead, Apostle. We're not getting any sound. We're not getting any sound. Apostle Nigel London, we seem to be having some technical difficulties. We'll go to a short break. We can't hear you. We'll go to a short break and we'll get back.
Jamaican people, some don't know what it feels like. Feel work from 6 in the morning straight up to midnight.
Working
Midnight, I'm here to tell you. You think it easy for barber stand up in the shop all day and nothing not one. You think it easy for farmers stay up in the sun all day, upload the farm. It no easy being a vendor nor a taxi man. No, you think it easy for stand up and watch your youth a cry for food for them. But how feels it knows it. We are feel it from we little and a grow. How feels it knows it. Sometimes it feel like we let go. How feels it knows it. We are feel it from we little and a grow. How feels it knows it. Only Jah know.
It not easy for ear just to open at the shop all day.
Yes, Voice of the Diaspora. Welcome. You are tuned into Voice of the Diaspora. Apostle Nigel London here on Voice of the Diaspora. 57 minutes, 23 seconds. We are running out of time. Apostle Nigel London, go ahead.
Thank you. I hope they can hear me and the viewers can see me as well.
You're clear now.
Thank you. I was saying that I receive phone calls whenever, most of the times, to say that we're dealing with it, we're trying to get it done, because the paradigm is that I'm not seeking some personal gain here. I don't stand for things for them to benefit me. It's a benefiting the community. I don't call to ask for some favor to benefit me. It's about what benefits the community. And if we can find, most like I said, a few more leaders who can say, listen, although you're critical of us, we are prepared to do what has to be done, because the call is for the people to benefit. If we can have that happening, then I believe that Region 10 and Linden can benefit excessively from what's available to us. Because my argument is that I don't ask any peace member or politician to give me anything from their pocket. It is from the treasury. It belongs to us as Guyanese. And my argument is that if it is in the treasury, then the people of Guyana must benefit from it. If I don't ask for money from Freedom House, I'm saying that this is in the treasury. It belongs to all Guyanese, and you must spend some of it on Lindeners. That's the argument. And it has to hold true. Because I'm not asking for personal gains here. This is about us as a people. And you must serve us in reference to what is rightfully ours. We demand it, and hopefully more people can arise to demand the same, so that we can have betterment for our community here in Linden.
Apostle Nigel, because this program we usually do a short clip of our entire show, where we say, in this short clip, this is what is said, and it becomes very popular. And so I want to capture a moment to say for the short clip, what are your views of Kashif and Shanghai, the PPP, and what is happening to Linden?
I do not see Kashif or Shanghai as being any individual that's so significant that warrants my attention, because, as I said, they have no ability to influence me to do anything. And as a result of that, the people they choose to influence are not people who get my attention either. What I do know and do note is the fact that people generally relate to what they can see. And persons are able to see so many things, as they say, happening here in the community, that they're likely to say that, well, more has been done now than we've been done under the previous administration. That's the absolute truth. And so what persons may be drawn to is what they are seeing rather than what they know to be the case. And what I know to be the case is that neither Kashif nor Shanghai has the ability intellectually or any otherwise to influence me to do anything in the PPC is concerned. So that doesn't happen. That is an impossibility where I'm concerned, and where any sensible person is concerned. I don't play that kind of game, and I don't indulge myself in that degree of immature behavior. What I indulge myself in is the fact that those who are responsible for handling or managing what belongs to all Guyanese must be held accountable when all Guyanese don't benefit. That is my policy. But when it comes to these two gentlemen, I don't have any personal beef with them, because actually I know them and I've spoken to them, we've interacted because of football. But when it comes to leadership and decision making and what governs me, they're not qualified to do that.
They're not qualified to do that. We're out of time, but I have to extend the time. I have two more questions for the Apostle. Apostle London, you have said in closing, we have two questions, but you have said that you are willing to enter the realm of politics, to work for your people, and to see their liberation, and to see the equitable distribution of the wealth of this nation. Guyana is no longer a banana republic; it's an oil-rich country. And I think a lot of people's mindset seem to be stuck, as if Guyana is some place like it used to be 20 years ago.
Right.
We
No
are
longer.
a wealthy country. And so I want to ask this. You said that you would enter politics. I am aware of the existence of the People's Parliament. Could you take 3 minutes to talk to us about it, and to tell us where, I'm tying the two questions, to tell us where you would like to be politically to save Linden and Region 10?
Well, it speaks to the people's movement, and that group that we have, that have been formed, focuses more on activism at the national level, actually all levels. And my desire is to serve our community, to serve the people of Ghana in general. And I know you say it with all degree of genuineness about my entering the field of politics. I am in it. Every Ghanese is in it. As long as you think about how your country is governed,
Yes.
you're in politics.
Yes.
If you speak to how things are happening in a country, you are in,
Yes.
because politics speaks out how one is governed. And I am certainly disheartened and I'm very upset with the manner of governance in this country, not by the PPP Civic, because governance is not just by them. It includes the opposition and any other opposition group. And the way in which Guyana is being governed right now is troubling to me, because there is not an equal distribution, or not a focus being placed on Guyanese being redeemed from this curse of poverty that would have been on our backs for so long. And so my view, Norman, is that I see the potency of change occurring at the national level more than local level. Because I did a broadcast the other day to inform Guyanese at home and in the diaspora that we don't generally have local government in this country, because there's a central ministry that governs local government. We have a minister that governs local governance. So how can we be governed locally if Darmala could pick up the phone and say, this can't happen? More so, we don't even elect a mayor in our towns. Mayors are not elected by Guyanese, by the population. They're elected by councillors. So even as simple as our mayor, we can't choose in the true sense of the word. So what I would like to do is, as best as I can, if I'm allowed to do so by Yahweh's grace, is to advocate in the highest offices in the country for us to see that kind of change. Because at the local level, there's a crippling that can be done easily to anyone, because it's controlled centrally. That in law must change. I believe that if we advocate as all Guyanese, that we would choose who represents us, we would elect a mayor, we'll elect a regional chairman, we should elect every councillor, and they should be held accountable by us, it'd be better off. So that kind of constitutional change cannot be had by serving at the local level alone. It has to be done on the national scene, which is what I'm willing to do if the people ask that of me. And they seem to be doing so. So I'm willing to do so at this time.
You're willing to do. We have come to the end of the program. Apostle Nigel London, your closing remarks on the 8% public servants increase and the Linden situation. Your closing remarks, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Again, I'm always grateful for the opportunity to sit with you and to have your very pointed questions asked of me. In reference to the 8%, I would say again that I, first of all, do not see it as anything that is respectful where public servants are concerned. As Ali rightfully said in his impassioned plea, in Parliament, what about the nurses? What about the policemen? So I'll ask the same thing tonight, Ali. What about them? Do they not deserve more? And I would say to him that whatever you shout about in reference to when you out of office, you should be willing to stand up for when you're in it. Whatever you shout about when you're out, you should be willing to stand up for when you're in. And that's not what you're doing at this moment. And further to that, Irfan Ali and those cabinet members, as well as members of the parliament, you don't deserve any 8% in anything because you have no need for it. You have got heavily weighted benefits and you should not be beneficiaries of this. Give it to the small man. Let them have a life and enjoy it. Finally, I say to you, in reference to Lindeners, we have the right to demand that those who are paid to lead us do so. And we must hold them accountable. Get away from politics in reference to party politics and look at people who are the beneficiaries of good governance. Thank you so much again, Norman, and for your viewers. I appreciate it.
1 hour, 6 minutes, 52 seconds. Apostle Nigel London. We went over by 6 minutes, but we have no regrets. Thank you for being here on Voice of the Diaspora, and we hope to have you back in the near future.
The pleasure will be mine. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, we promise to increase the salaries of public servants by far more than 20%. By far more than 20%. Mr. Speaker, what about the nurses, the teachers, what about the police workers, the police officers? Aren't they equally important? Aren't they equally important? Mr. Speaker.
People, Jamaican people, some don't know what it feels like. We are work from 6 in the morning straight up to midnight.
Working
midnight. I'm if I tell you, you think it easy for barber stand up in the shop all day and nothing not go on. You think it easy for farmers stay up in the sun all day and plow the farm. It no easy being a vendor nor a taxi man. No, you think it easy if you stand up and watch your youth a cry for food for them. But how feels it knows it. We are feel it from we little and a grow. How feels it knows it. Sometimes we feel like we let go. How feels it knows it. We are feel it from we little and a grow. How feels it knows it. Only judge know.
it no easy for ear just a open at the shop all day and nothing a go on. It no easy for eagle and down in the marketplace and can't sell a can. Manicurists rent them boot and the ladies now do them nails. No, street vendors now the boiling sun and them now make no sale.
So who feels it knows it. We are feel it from we little and a grow. Who feels it knows it. Sometimes we feel like we let go. Who feels it knows it. We are feel it from we little and a grow. Who feels it knows it.
Only judge I know. Yeah, yeah.
The way the system set up, no help poor people no way. But poor people not go give up. No matter how it's there, we still a hustle and a fight it. All when we no like it, still working on and on, from dusk till dawn. So who feels it knows it. We are feel it from we little and a grow. Who feels it knows it. Sometimes we feel like we let go. rather come for the rent. When deep down in yourself you know say you don't have a cent. You know me feel it for the youths them when you have to sleep on that street. Them not care for the youths them, and a long time me see it. So I won't feel it, knows it. Them I feel it from them little and I grow. I won't feel it, knows it. Sometimes them feel like we let go. I won't feel it, knows it. Them I feel it from them little and I grow. I won't feel it, knows it. I only judge I know. Yes, I won't feel it, knows it. We are feel it from a little and I grow. I won't feel it, knows it. Sometimes we feel like we let go. I won't feel it, knows it. We are feel it from a little and I grow. I won't feel it, knows it.